Well, welcome back, and we've just finished the first unit of our motor learning class. And so far, what we've done is we've just looked at an overview of what is motor learning. We define some terms, um, and then we have also looked at some areas of motor control as it relates to the neuromotor system and also motor control theories. Now we're going to be transitioning into more focus on the learning aspect and what factors impact our ability to learn motor skills. So, in this chapter, we're going to look at about attention, how attention and our ability to attend helps us with the performance of motor skills. So, by way of introduction, what is attention? It basically, we say pay attention means to focus, give a conscious awareness. It takes cognitive effort to pay attention. And what we are interested in is what are some characteristics that we have in simultaneously being able to attend to more than one skill at a time? And also, how are we able to make decisions about what we should attend to and what we shouldn't attend to? So, what is relevant in our environment that will help us in performing a skill and what would not be relevant? So, as we begin this chapter, there's a video clip as a homework assignment. I'm not going to show you right now, but I encourage you to do that video clip and turn in that homework assignment. But let's just consider how we are able to multitask. God has created us with the ability to do more than one thing at a time. We often can do multiple activities, often driving down the car, listening to music, talking to someone in the car. As we attempt to multitask, there are times that we have no difficulties and we're able to do all tasks relatively well. But there are other times where we cannot. And obviously, there's that point in time where we cannot attend to anything else. And so we do have a limitation on how much multitasking we can be successful at. And so the answer to why is really relating to this concept of attention. And so we say attention is a performance limiting factor. And so our ability to attend, what we attend to, and what we don't attend to all plays a role in how successful we are at motor skills. As we get into the chapter, there's 3 different theories that we're going to look at briefly and try to explain attention through these different theories. There's the filter theory, the central resource theory, and what is called the multiple resource theories. And we're going to specifically look at Wiccan's multiple resource theory. Okay, so those are the 3 areas of attention, or models or theories of attention, that we're going to look at. And first of all, the bottleneck theory or filter theory is the most simplistic of all the theories. And this is the idea that we have difficulty doing multiple tasks at the same time because of how we process information. And so, according to the diagram, we have lots of different stimuli in the environment vying for our attention. We're picking up information. We're detecting, we're identifying those sources of stimuli, and then we make a selection of a response, but we can only do one response at a time. So lots of different stimuli vying for our attention, what we are going to attend to, and then we can only attend to one piece of information at any one time. We select the response, we prepare to do the response, and then we respond. And then we begin all over again. We're several stimuli vying for our attention. We select one response, we do that response. Very simplistic approach to attention. There's different types of filter theories, depending on where the filter is along the process. But again, a simplistic way to look at attention, and probably does not do a very good job at really explaining the abilities that we have to multitask and be successful. So filter theory is one approach to studying attention. Another way to explain attention is through a theory called the resource capacity model. And central resource theory, sometimes it's called. And this is the idea that you're able to do several things at once, but you do max out. You are drawing from one central resource for attention. You have capacity for lots of different things that you can do. But once you max out from that central resource theory, you no longer can be successful doing anything else. So as long as I stay within my capacity, I will be successful at multitasking. So resource capacity theory, central resource theory is the name of it, the central resource theory. Here's a good visual, I think, of this concept. Again, the idea is there's one place in the central nervous system that is a place where we are able to attend to information, and we can attend to different pieces of information as long as it doesn't take up all our resource area. Once we attend to so many things, we have no more room in our central resource, then we are no longer able to attend to anything else. So that's the central resource theory. And Kahneman actually is an example of a central resource theory. So I encourage you to make sure you read through Kahneman's specific model for attention. But here it is in a visual format. And we're going to talk about each part of his model here in the next few slides. First of all, the idea of arousal. And as we talk about what we pay attention to, what our capacity is, we do know that arousal plays a role in our ability to attend to information. And so some examples there would be the idea of sometimes I am not very emotionally aroused. I might be bored, and so I'm not paying a lot of attention to anything coming into my environment. And then maybe there's other times where I'm highly aroused. There's a high arousal level, and again, not ideal, and I'm not able to attend to all the areas I need to attend to. So the idea here is this is a flexible area, and it's best to be in what we call the optimal level of arousal, the inverted U, where I'm not aroused too much, but there is some arousal, so that in fact I'm able to attend to all the information that's presented. So arousal plays a role in the way I attend to information, and that's the first part of his theory. As we move on, he says there's 3 rules that govern how we allocate attention resources. So as information comes into my environment, I'm going to pay attention to what I might attend in some areas and others I might discard. So first of all, the demands, the evaluation of the demands, like how much do I have to allocate to this task in order to be successful? And based on what I have to allocate to this one task, then will depend on how much I have left to allocate to another task versus another task, another task. So I evaluate the demands. Then also the idea of endearing disposition. And this is the idea of like drawing my attention to certain things. And we all know that if something's new and different, it often gets our attention. The example here is in golf is somebody would scream right as the golfer was striking the ball. Obviously, that would get your attention because that's different, that's novel, that's out of ordinary. But also the meaningfulness. If something has meaning to you, you're more likely to attend to it. And they call it the cocktail party phenomenon, but we've all experienced this where you might be with a group of people talking. There's another group right next to you. They say your name or they say something you're very interested in, and suddenly, although you're still with your group, you're paying a lot more attention to the other group and what they're talking about. So that's the idea of meaningfulness. And then the last one is the idea of momentary intentions. It can either be self-directed or others-directed. You basically pay attention. You say, okay, focus on your follow-through when throwing a ball. So you're purposefully self-directing your attention to a certain part of the movement. Or a therapist tells you to watch where you're placing your foot. Again, that would be an example of momentary intention. So Kamen, as you look at his model, he talks about the arousal level. He then also talks about what governs or regulates your attention. How do you decide on what to allocate? How much attention you're going to pay to any one demand on you? And you're going to make an evaluation. There's going to be some enduring dispositions and momentary intentions. So that's that part of his model. And before we go to multiple resource, the bottom of his model just basically looks at, I have all these possible activities vying for my attention. Based on my arousal level and how I allocate will depend on how many of these activities can actually be done, and then that will be my initial and final responses. So again, I encourage you to look over Kamen's central resource theory. It's an example of a central resource theory. Now finally, Wickens, and he has a multiple resource theory. And so he says instead of one central resource, you have multiple resources. Each of those sources do have a limited capacity, but you have a lot more options. And so he breaks his model into several different parts. He talks about how you process information, how you bring information in, different ways we take sensory information in, how we might output, what our final action might be, how we might code information in memory. And so in the multiple resource approach, there's lots of different things going on. We have a lot of different areas that we can draw from as far as our attention. So the performance of simultaneous multiple tasks will depend on the competition of what's vying for our attention within those multiple sources. Here's a picture of Wickens' multiple resource theory. Again, you can see he's got different aspects. He's got the processing stages. He's got input of stimulus, how we process information, and then our actual response. And so it's a multifaceted model, and so that's why we call it the multiple resource theory. Much more developed. So success in performing two or more tasks will depend on where in all those different sources or mechanisms you're drawing from. If you come from a common resource, then you'll have more likelihood to suffer or to not be able to attend to as many things. If they come from different resources, then you're probably going to be more successful. And examples there, texting while driving in heavy traffic would take a lot of more cognitive effort, so you might struggle more attending to those kind of activities than if you're in light traffic and maybe you're at a stop sign or a stoplight. I think that's a good place to stop. I'll come back with the second part of this chapter on my next video.